Good evening. Leading the news this Thursday, an earthquake hit Iran, killing at least 25,000 people. The House defeated the flag-burning amendment, and East and West Germany agreed to an economic merger. We'll have the details in our news summary in a moment. Robin?
After the news summary, we look first at the severe earthquake in Iran with Philippe Boulay of the United Nations Disaster Relief. Then our congressional correspondent Roger Mudd reports on the debate in the House on the constitutional amendment to outlaw desecration of the flag. Next, Canada's constitutional crisis. We hear excerpts from a speech by Prime Minister Mulroney and analysis by two Canadian journalists. Then a report from the Pacific Northwest on an endangered species that threatens jobs.
Funding for the NewsHour has been provided by AT&T. AT&T connects the world. From equipment to networking, from computers to communications, AT&T, the right choice. And by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, a catalyst for change. And by PepsiCo. And made possible by the financial support of viewers like you and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
A powerful earthquake hit Iran early this morning, killing at least 25,000 people, according to the Iranian government, and injuring thousands more. The quake was centered about 200 miles outside Tehran, in a remote mountainous farming region. It measured 7.3 on the Richter scale. Many towns were leveled. Iranian radio said rescue workers had not been able to reach some of the hardest hit villages because the roads are blocked by landslides. The quake was felt in Tehran, but no damage was reported there. The U.S. has offered to send humanitarian aid. It has not yet received a request from Iran. We'll have a fuller report on the quake after the news summary. Jim?
The House of Representatives tonight defeated the constitutional amendment to protect the American flag. A majority of 254 to 177 voted in favor, but the amendment failed to get the two-thirds vote necessary for passage. The House defeat effectively kills the measure. There were heated words from both sides prior to the vote. We'll have excerpts from that debate later in the program. The Senate today sustained President Bush's veto of the Hatch Act revisions. The bill was designed to ease curbs on political activity by government employees. Mr. Bush said it would politicize the civil service. The House voted Wednesday to override, but the veto prevailed in the Senate by a 2-vote margin. On another civil service matter, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled today political patronage cannot be used for the hiring, transfer, or promotion of government workers. They said patronage was a violation of free speech and association. The vote was 5-4. The court said political affiliation should be a factor only in high-level policy positions.
Today was the second day for Nelson Mandela in New York. The leader of the African National Congress spent the morning at Manhattan's Riverside Church, where he thanked American church leaders for their support. Mandela explained why he continues to support sanctions against South Africa despite President de Klerk's reforms.
These economic sanctions must be maintained for the simple reason that the principle of one person, one vote is still the privilege of whites only in the country of my birth. To lift sanctions now, before we have seen profound and irreversible change in apartheid, would be a serious political error.
Tonight, Mandela attends a fundraising ceremony for the ANC at Yankee Stadium. He was given more than $200,000 in donations from church leaders at this morning's ceremony.
4 gunmen burst into a government council meeting in the capital city of Haiti today. They killed a union leader and wounded a council member and another politician. The 19-member civilian council governs along with Haiti's president. She was not at the meeting when the attack took place. Witnesses said 2 of the gunmen wore army uniforms.
The two Germanys moved another step closer to reunification today. Both the East and West German parliaments approved a treaty that will merge their economies by July 2nd. East Germany also promised never to challenge Poland's borders, which include former German territory given to Poland after World War II. West Germany is expected to make the same pledge as well. In Moscow, Soviet President Gorbachev lashed out at his critics today, accusing them of slander. He spoke at a meeting of the Russian Republic's communist leaders where he's been criticized during the past 2 days for ignoring the party on key decisions. Gorbachev told them there is no secret plan to move to capitalism. He said that since his economic reform program has been widely debated, to claim it dropped from the sky is slander.
The U.S. economy grew at a relatively slow rate for the first quarter of this year. The Commerce Department said today the gross national product was up 1.9% from January to March. Also in Washington today, Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan told a congressional hearing a recession is unlikely to be caused by banks not making loans. He said there is still enough credit available to keep the economy growing at a modest rate.
That's it for the news summary. Still ahead, the Iranian earthquake, the flag desecration amendment, Canada's constitutional crisis, and what's at risk in saving the spotted owl.
The devastating earthquake in Iran is the lead story of this day. At least 25,000 people were killed by the quake that hit early this morning. Disaster relief crews today began to dig out the dead from the rubble of some of the 100 villages in northwest Iran that were destroyed. We have a report narrated earlier today by Alex Thompson of Independent Television News.
The earthquake struck at midnight local time. It lasted 1 minute. There then followed occasional aftershocks for over 2 hours. These first pictures came in with no sound early this afternoon. 12 hours after the shock, Radio Tehran was reporting that 1,900 bodies had been recovered from the affected area northwest of Tehran. But hundreds of villages are still cut off. It'll be days before everybody's been found, dead or alive, in the rubble. The earthquake measured 7.4 on the Richter scale and was felt over 150 miles away in Tehran. Rasht, a city of 1/3 people on the Caspian Sea coast, is the nearest large town to the epicenter and is extensively damaged. In 1968, tremors in the Khorasan region killed 20,000 people. The last major earthquake in the country struck in 1978 when 25,000 people died in the eastern desert town of Tabas. In the Armenian earthquake 2 years ago, a similar number lost their lives. Seismologists at Edinburgh University measured the strength of last night's quake and recorded its vibration. Iran is being squeezed by 3 continental plates. When there's a quake in the north of the country, the chances are it will be severe. This is what happened last night. Iran is becoming smaller by several centimeters every year. In the north of the country, there are the Elburz Mountains. To the east, the Lut Mountains rise up, marking another plate. To the southwest, the most volatile range, the Zagros Mountains, all 3 indicating the edge of 3 geological plates. The Zagros Mountains are pushing northeast, squeezing the country and building up pressure in the other ranges. When that pressure grows intolerable, earthquakes result, particularly along the plates in the Elburz Mountains in the northwest. Last night, the pressure grew intolerable. The only fortunate thing, scientists say, is that the epicenter, far more powerful than the Armenian earthquake, was out in the Caspian Sea. For earthquakes here are particularly intense.
As